So our episode begins in Columbus, Ohio. It's actually Halloween in 2010. 16-year-old Devin Griffin had just finished church for the day. He'd actually spent the weekend at his dad's house, but was going to his mom's house after church. Devin actually sang in the choir that morning, which is why he was at church by himself and not with his whole family. So as soon as Devin gets home to his mom's house, Devin runs upstairs and starts playing video games in his room. He's like, "Hey, finished church. Just going straight up to my room to play." But as 1:30 p.m. rolled around, he noticed something. His house was really quiet. Too quiet. He knew that his mom, 46-year-old Susan Liske, would be awake by now and moving around the house. Excuse me. Where was the rest of his family, too? He didn't hear anyone downstairs. He'd actually dropped in at home to get his church clothes earlier that morning around 9:30 a.m. before church. But he had only quickly seen his stepbrother, 24-year-old BJ, while running back out the door. So he was there that morning, didn't see the rest of his family, only saw BJ, ran back out, went to church, sang in the choir, came home, ran immediately upstairs, and was like, "Wait, there's my whole family. Like, why haven't I seen anybody?" So Devin finishes up his video game and makes his way downstairs to find his family. No one was on the main level of the home, like in the living room or kitchen where he assumed it would be. So he makes his way to the master bedroom that was on the main level and opens the door. Inside the master bedroom, it looks like his mom and stepdad, 53-year-old William Liske, who goes by Bill, are still in bed. But it's so late, it's like 1:30, and he's like, "What the heck?" So Devin decides to walk over and wake up his mom. As he approaches the bed, he notices that their comforter is pulled up over both of their heads. So weirded out, Devin calls out, "Mom!" When she doesn't respond, he tries touching her foot that was poking out of the covers, but she still doesn't move. He calls out, "Mom," again, while pulling the covers down off her head. This is when Devin jumps at the sight of blood and all over his mom's pillow. He relaxes a little as he remembers it's Halloween, and his family must be playing a Halloween prank on him. He's like, "Okay, this is a prank. Like, it's Halloween. They're trying to spook me or whatever." So he's like, "Okay." But then Devin dramatically realizes that this is not a prank. This is much worse. When he pulls the rest of the covers down and finds his mom dead in her bed, he freaks out. His stepdad is in the bed too, and his stepdad is lying next to her, dead as well. Devin runs outside of the home immediately. I'm sure he's traumatized, and he calls his aunt, Lori Morse, who then calls 911 for him, and rushed to the home. And at first I was kind of like, why wouldn't he just call 911? But like, the thought of calling 911 actually kind of scares me. So I don't think like after finding your parents dead, like it's that weird that you called your aunt, calling your aunt and be like, "Hey, come help. Oh my gosh, what do I do?" And she's like, "Okay, we need to call 911 first." So I don't think that's weird. And he was young. He was only 16, so I could see that. When Ottawa County authorities arrive at the Liske home, they come across a grisly crime scene. The Liske home was in a very rural part of Columbus, sitting on roughly 100 acres. So it's a really secluded place. Like, we're not talking a neighborhood home. I mean, their home sits on 100 acres, so there's nobody around. Police find Father Bill Liske. His body was kind of lying in a natural sleeping position. He had been shot 5 times in the head and face. And from what investigators think, only about 1 to 2 feet away is how far away he was shot from. So that's like pretty intense. It's almost like he was shot while he was asleep. So I assume whatever happened between the time that he was at choir or at church and came home. Possibly because, like I said, Bill was asleep. So this was how he woke up. I don't think he woke up being shot in the face, but he was obviously still asleep. So it happened in the early morning hours. They hadn't woken up yet for the day. And then his mother, Susan, had been shot 3 times. But she was positioned a little bit more awkwardly than Bill. She had been moved after she was shot. So police think whoever did it shot her husband, Bill, while he was sleeping. That obviously woke her up, and then she was shot after him. So she was not in a normal sleeping position, and then the killer positioned her back onto the bed and pulled the covers up over both of them. So that's why she was kind of in like a weird position. So according to Sarah Weber with the Sandusky Register, the bullets that were used to shoot the parents were smaller, like a smaller caliber, like likely a .22. As police are taking in the crime scene, they wonder about the rest of the family. Devin was outside being comforted by his aunt. He's a 16-year-old, but they were still missing his stepbrother BJ, who he had seen that morning, and his brother Derek, who also lived at home. Jay was not actually living with the family at the time, so they were a little less worried about finding him than they were about locating Derek. So they searched the family home, and as they got up to 23-year-old Derek's room, they find his door locked. After knocking and finally kicking the door down, police are hit with even more tragedy. Derek Griffin's body is curled up on his bed, kind of like the fetal position, and he's facing the wall. Coroner determines that he suffered blunt force trauma to his head and died within a few minutes of the first hit. So he too is dead in his room. Police discovered a bloody claw hammer later in the house that actually matched the wounds on Derek Griffin's head. So the parents were shot. Derek was beaten with a hammer until he died. After talking to Devin, police learned that the Liske family had multiple guns on their property, but none of them actually matched the murder weapon that was used to kill the parents. Police found muddy footprints by a deck near the family's pond, so they actually believed that maybe the murderer had thrown the murder weapons in there to try to get rid of them. Like those footprints are random down there. Maybe whoever did this walked down there and tried to get rid of the murder weapons. But after draining the pond and bringing in weapon-sniffing dogs, like dogs who can detect weapons, police could not find the gun used to kill Susan and Bill. So, we don't think it's still on the property. All they knew was Devin was traumatized, Susan and Bill were slaughtered in their own home, Derek was beaten savagely, probably scared for his life in his bedroom, and BJ, who Devin had seen earlier that morning, was nowhere to be found. 24-year-old BJ had a pretty troubled past. When Bill had divorced BJ's mother, BJ really struggled. He started skipping school and misbehaving. That's when Bill and Susan got married in 2001, adding 2 more brothers into the family. BJ resented everything that had to do with it. When Susan tried imposing some new rules on the family, it was met with backlash from BJ. In 2002, his father Bill had actually called police on then 16-year-old BJ, who had actually been threatening to harm himself. He was actually on house arrest at the time of the call, and when officers arrived, BJ attacked them. So then he ended up facing charges in juvenile court, which I'm just telling you this to show that he was having a very hard time, and so were the parents, his stepmom and his dad. It's kind of like managing this rough time he was having. Then, October of 2004, BJ got into a fight with his stepmother, Susan, and hit her in the chest hard. So it got physical. And then, not even 2 months later, he was charged again. This time with felonious assault and robbery for hitting Susan with a coffee cup and stealing her keys. So, he's not in juvie, and they did press charges. They pressed charges, but he was actually found incompetent to stand trial. And so, then his father and stepmother actually just dropped the charges because they were like, he's still his dad, it's still his son. You know what I mean? That would be hard. It wasn't until 18-year-old BJ tried to attack Susan again, his stepmother, while she was innocently showering, which is so messed up. But he goes in and does that to Susan while she's in such a vulnerable state. He goes in and tries to attack her. So this is when Susan and Bill have had enough. Bill was like, despite the fact that BJ is my son, this is enough. He obviously has it out for Susan. He's physical. He's violent. They've reached their breaking point. So he thinks for everybody's safety, BJ was appropriately kicked out of the home. He's 18 now and moved to a Sandusky group home for mental health patients because he was obviously struggling. He actually had the cops called him 3 times while living at this home. And one of those times was after his dad, Bill, came to pick him up once, and then they got into a physical fight again. So there's a lot involved. And Bill would kind of go back continuously to try to visit his son. He still loved him. He still cared about him at this home. It just never went well. The relationship was just really struggling. It's safe to say that with BJ missing and most of the family murdered, friends and family of the Lisks were really quick to point the fingers and voice their concerns about BJ. So is BJ supposed to be at the house though? Nope, he wasn't living there, but his brother had seen him there earlier that morning. So police were kind of like, why was he here and now the rest of the family's dead? It's kind of odd that he was there. Apparently he had been there the night before, but he didn't ever sleep there because of the violence. So it was a little weird that he was there. At least at first, police were like, this is getting a little strange. Mark Grado, who's a longtime family friend of the Lisks and a neighbor, told police that Bill called him multiple times for help with BJ. Whether it was that he couldn't get BJ to settle down or things had finally turned physical, it seems like Mark was called before that last resort of contacting police. So instead of calling police, he would contact Mark and say, can you please get over to the house and help me? And then if that wasn't enough, they would resort to calling police. Mark even told police they actually suspected BJ of killing and torturing their pets. And despite confronting Bill with the theory, Bill reassured Mark that BJ was just acting out, that he didn't mean any harm by it, which really bad sign, torturing pets. So I understand why Mark confronted him with it and was like, hey, I think he needs help. Mark told police that despite the severe issues BJ had caused in the family, Bill loved him and never gave up on him. He wanted him to be a part of the family. In February 2006, Bill filed for guardianship over BJ, because BJ had been hospitalized for schizophrenic affective disorder, bipolar type, and he needed help, and he needed a guardian. When BJ moved to the Sandusky halfway home, Bill visited often and felt bad for his son. He just wanted him to know that he was loved. So the weekend of the murders, Bill had actually taken vacation time and gone hunting with BJ so they could get some one-on-one quality time together. The family actually had a cabin in Carroll County that they used often while hunting. And so that's where they stayed during this little vacation together. When BJ and Bill returned home from hunting that Saturday, they decided to spend the night with some friends together. Mark Gradle, the neighbor, actually attended the gathering and said that everything seemed normal. After the party, BJ, who was really not allowed to sleep at the house, like I said, due to violence of the past, actually ended up staying the night at the home that night. Bill had been drinking, and he didn't feel it was safe to drive BJ all the way back to the home in Sandusky. And so he was like, I just think you should stay the night. Plus, their hunting trip had gone well, and so had the party. They just went hunting, so they have guns, and now, yes, he's staying the night at the house. But like the hunting had gone well, so at the party that night, like everyone was getting along. BJ wasn't having any outbursts, so I think his dad, who, despite the fact that they had made that rule, was like, okay, it's gonna be okay. We'll just have him stay the night, and I'll drive him home in the morning. So Bill actually made up a bed on the couch for BJ to stay in that night. And we only know that because police found the couch made up into a bed. So 1 + 1 = 2. Once Devin left the house that morning for church, BJ took the family's Ford F-150 and drove it back to the hunting cabin. He stopped along the way to get a Subway sandwich. Police actually found footage of him buying the sandwich, but it went uneaten. They just found it at the cabin. He never ate it. Kind of weird. After learning about BJ and the family's cabin, police knew that they needed to head up that way. They stormed the cabin and found BJ hiding out inside. He was arrested and charged with aggravated murder. And BJ pled guilty to all 3 murders and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Tragically, BJ ended up taking his own life in prison in 2015 at age 29. So he was fit to stand trial. I mean, apparently, I think he kind of said that he didn't really know why he did it. He just did it. It seems so black and white. They found him, yeah, guilty, and that was it. So, I mean, once they found him, he confessed and was like, yeah, I did it. Like, he didn't try to put up a fight or anything. Which is, I mean, pretty open and shut case if the person who everyone is pointing fingers at then says, yes, I did it. So after finding out what BJ had done to his family, Devin recalled running into him earlier that morning. This is when he was like, well, I did see him earlier that morning, and police were like, how did that conversation go? Because we think he just killed your family. Like when you ran into him, he had already killed your family. And Devin was like, well, he couldn't remember much about the conversation because it was so fast, because he was rushing to get dressed. But he did note that BJ seemed happier than normal. Like he was a little bit more giddy. And he was also asking him a lot of questions like, where are you going? How long are you going to be there? How long is that going to take? And so, I mean, Devin just kind of brushed it off like, okay, this is just a little weird, I guess. Is it weird that BJ didn't kill Devin? I think so. But I think because Devin was like, oh, I'm just running in and out. People are expecting me at church. Maybe BJ was like, I can't kill him because people are expecting him, and then I'm not going to have enough time to get away if he doesn't show up. I'm not sure. But I do think that's weird that he killed everyone and then ran into him in the same house. In the safety of the house, they had just slaughtered his own family and chose not to. I also think a big part of this case is that you have to think about the impact that it had on Devin. That he entered his house not once, but twice and spent hours in it with the whole family dead inside and didn't know. That whole time he was playing video games, his family was dead. And when he ran into BJ that morning, his family was dead, and he had no idea. And to me, that's just the worst part. And it being on Halloween makes it even worse. But yeah, BJ said he didn't know why he did it. He just said he just got up and did it. Would he have been a serial killer? I think he had a really strong mental illness, and that's why I think like he pled guilty and then ended up taking his own life. I think he really struggled with some demons, like we don't know what he was going through. I'm not making an excuse. He brutally took people's lives, but I think there was obviously something going on there that he was fighting in his own head, and I don't know if that's what caused him to do it. He didn't necessarily say that, but I think that all signs are pointing towards some severe mental illness. So, not surprising, we actually don't really know where Devin is today. This case is surprisingly not reported on a lot. Like, it was hard finding any information on it. There was a Halloween murder, and also this family was completely innocent victims, like innocently taken by someone that they should have been able to trust. And then also just to put the impact on Devin and make him continue living on with that, it's just an awful, awful case. But that is the case of the Liske family murders. Let me know your thoughts on this kids in the comment section below. And of course, if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TCNS. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.